We live in a world that constantly tells us we need others to validate our dreams, approve our choices, and hold our hands through every challenge. Society whispers that we are incomplete without constant connection, that solitude is loneliness, and that walking alone somehow signals failure. But what if I told you that the greatest warriors in history, not only on the battlefield but in life itself, discovered their true strength only when they learned to stand completely alone? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, wrote in his private journal, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Here was a man who ruled the Roman Empire, surrounded by thousands, yet he understood that real power comes from within, the ability to face yourself without distraction, without the noise of other people's opinions drowning out your inner voice. Think about it. Every breakthrough in your life happened the moment you stopped waiting for permission and began walking your own path. Every moment of genuine growth came when you confronted your fears alone. When you choose courage over comfort, when you decide your vision matters more than their approval, something remarkable happens. The Stoic Warrior doesn't walk alone because they hate people. They walk alone because they know true connection with others only comes after you've learned to connect deeply with yourself. This isn't about becoming cold or disconnected. It's about rooting yourself so deeply in your own values, so crystal clear about your purpose, that you give from a place of abundance rather than need. When you master the art of walking alone, you don't become lonely, you become free. Free from the exhausting cycle of seeking validation. Free from the prison of other people's expectations. Free to love, to serve, and to act from your authentic self. The path of the Stoic Warrior is not easy, but it is the only path that leads to true fulfillment. Today, we're going to explore 7 powerful principles that will transform how you see solitude, how you face challenges, and how you build unshakable inner strength. If this resonates with you, hit the like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, don't skip any part of this video. Each principle builds on the last, and you'll need all 7 to fully embrace the way of the Stoic Warrior. Drop this affirmation in the comments right now. I walk alone. I rise alone. I win alone. 1. Embrace the sacred solitude. The first principle of the Stoic Warrior is learning to see solitude not as punishment, but as sacred space. Most people fear being alone because they've never learned to enjoy their own company. They fill every quiet moment with noise, scrolling, calling, consuming, anything to avoid the discomfort of facing themselves. But here's what they don't understand. In that discomfort lies your greatest treasure. Seneca, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, instead of viewing this forced solitude as suffering, he used it to develop the philosophical insights that would influence humanity for thousands of years. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." His isolation wasn't emptiness. It was the fertile ground where wisdom grew. When you're alone, really alone, something magical happens. The noise of others' opinions fades away. The pressure to perform, to please, to pretend, it all dissolves. What remains is the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are beneath all the masks. This is terrifying for most people because they've built their entire identity around external validation. But for the Stoic Warrior, this is liberation. Think about the last time you sat in complete silence with yourself for more than 10 minutes. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. If that sounds unbearable, you're exactly where most people are, afraid of your own mind. But your mind is your most powerful tool, and like any tool, it needs maintenance, attention, and training. Sacred solitude is where you develop your moral compass. When there's no one around to impress, no one to judge, no one to perform for, that's when you discover what you really believe, what you really value, what you're really made of. It's in these quiet moments that you hear the whispers of your deepest wisdom, the guidance that gets drowned out by the chaos of constant connection. The Stoic Warrior schedules sacred solitude like they would schedule training for a marathon. They protect it fiercely because they understand that everything else in their life, their relationships, their work, their impact on the world, flows from the clarity and strength they build in these quiet moments. Start small. 5 minutes of intentional solitude each morning. No agenda, no productivity goals, just sitting with yourself and observing your thoughts without judgment. As you become comfortable with your own company, extend the time. Take solo walks without podcasts or music. Eat meals in silence. Travel alone. Sometimes you'll discover that solitude isn't empty. It's full of possibility. It's where ideas are born, where courage is cultivated, where you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. The Stoic Warrior knows that everyone else is fighting for external territory, but the real battle, the one that determines everything else, happens in the quiet moments when you're completely alone with your soul. 2. Your opinion of me is none of my business. The second principle that separates the Stoic Warrior from the crowd is this revolutionary mindset. What others think of you is completely outside your control and, therefore, completely irrelevant to your path. Most people spend their entire lives as prisoners to opinions that don't even belong to them. They make decisions based on what their parents might think, what their friends might say, what strangers on social media might judge. The Stoic Warrior breaks these invisible chains. Eleanor Roosevelt, though not a Stoic philosopher, captured this truth perfectly when she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Epictetus, who went from slave to one of history's most influential teachers, taught that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about those events. When someone criticizes you, insults you, or disapproves of your choices, they're not actually hurting you. They're revealing something about themselves. The friend who questions your dreams has likely given up on their own. The family member who criticizes your path is often projecting their own fears and regrets onto you. Their opinion isn't about you at all. It's about them processing their own pain, limitations, and unfulfilled potential. The Stoic Warrior develops what I call opinion immunity. This means developing the wisdom to distinguish between constructive input from people who genuinely care about your growth and the background noise of those who are simply uncomfortable with your freedom. If someone's disapproval bothers you, ask yourself, are they living the life I want to live? Are they speaking from love and wisdom, or from their own fear and limitation? Most of the time, you'll realize that their opinion carries no weight because it comes from a place you don't want to be. The Stoic Warrior also understands that seeking approval is a losing game because it's never enough. The only opinion that truly matters is the one you have of yourself when you look in the mirror at the end of each day. This principle requires daily practice. Ask yourself, what would I do if no one was watching? What choice aligns with my values, regardless of others' reactions? Then do that. Each act of living authentically, regardless of others' opinions, builds your freedom muscle. 3. The strength found in self-reliance. The third principle of the Stoic Warrior is understanding that self-reliance isn't selfishness. It's the foundation of genuine service to others. The person who can stand on their own 2 feet is the person who can truly lift others up. You can't give what you don't have, and you can't lead where you haven't been willing to go alone. Ralph Waldo Emerson, heavily influenced by Stoic philosophy, wrote, "Nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles." Relying on others for your emotional stability, sense of worth, or basic needs makes you vulnerable and weak. This is not because others are unreliable, but because it places your power in someone else's hands. Consider the airplane safety instruction. Put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. This isn't selfishness, it's wisdom. When you develop the skills, mindset, and inner resources to handle your own challenges, you become a source of strength for others rather than a drain. Self-reliance means developing what I call emotional sovereignty, the ability to process your own feelings, solve your own problems, and maintain your own peace of mind without constantly needing others to rescue you, validate you, or fix you. This means asking for help from a position of strength rather than desperation. The self-reliant person approaches relationships differently. Instead of seeking someone to complete them, they seek someone to complement them. Instead of looking for others to fill their voids, they work on becoming whole themselves, which creates relationships based on mutual growth and genuine love, rather than neediness and codependency. Practically, self-reliance means developing skills across multiple areas of life: cooking nutritious meals, basic financial management, emotional regulation techniques, physical strength, intellectual curiosity. The more competent you become in handling life's basic requirements, the more freedom you have to pursue what truly matters. The deeper level is spiritual self-reliance, developing your own relationship with meaning, purpose, and truth. Don't outsource your spiritual life to others' interpretations. Read the ancient text yourself, meditate on the big questions, and develop your own understanding of what makes life worth living. The Stoic Warrior knows that self-reliance is ultimately about taking full responsibility for your life experience. No more blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck for your unhappiness. When you accept complete responsibility for your life, you also claim complete power over your life. 4. Failure is your private university. The fourth principle that defines the Stoic Warrior is this: they don't just accept failure, they court it, study it, and extract every lesson it offers. The Stoic Warrior sits alone with their failures and asks the most important question: what is this trying to teach me? Thomas Edison famously said of his failed attempts to invent the light bulb, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that didn't work." Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the raw material of success. This process, however, happens alone. The real work, the deep excavation of what went wrong and why, happens in solitude, when you strip away the ego, the excuses, and the external noise and honestly examine your choices, preparation, and execution. The Stoic Warrior creates what I call a failure audit. After every significant setback, they analyze 3 things. 1. What did I control that I could have done differently? 2. What was outside my control that I need to accept? 3. What can I learn that will make me stronger for the next attempt? This is self-education. Marcus Aurelius, facing military defeats and personal losses, wrote in his private meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Obstacles aren't roadblocks, they're curriculum. Most people avoid this process because it's uncomfortable, requiring admitting mistakes and sitting with pain. But the Stoic Warrior knows that comfort is the enemy of growth. Here's the paradox. The more willing you are to fail alone, the less likely you are to fail in ways that matter. When you process failures privately and implement changes, you become anti-fragile, stronger because of the stress, not despite it. Start your own failure practice in solitude. Write about it. What assumptions proved wrong? What strength did this experience build? Your failures aren't evidence that you're not cut out for success. They're proof that you're in the game. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Every failure is my private lesson in becoming unstoppable. 5. Building your inner fortress. The fifth principle is constructing what ancient philosophers called the inner citadel. This is an unassailable fortress of mental strength that remains standing regardless of external storms. It's about creating a space within yourself that no one can invade, corrupt, or destroy without your permission. Epictetus understood this principle, writing, "No one can hurt you without your permission." Your physical body can be harmed, but your inner fortress, your values, your character, your peace of mind, remains yours to protect or surrender. Building this fortress requires understanding the difference between impressions and judgments. Impressions, like losing money, facing a health challenge, are often outside your control. Your judgment about these impressions, what they mean, how they affect your worth, what you do next, is entirely within your fortress walls. Most people have no fortress. They are exposed to every wind of opinion. When someone speaks harshly, their entire day is ruined. When plans fail, they spiral into despair. They've given away the keys to their inner peace. The Stoic Warrior's fortress has several layers of defense. The outer wall is perspective, the ability to see current challenges in the context of your entire life and the temporary nature of all things. Perspective reminds you that an insult reveals the speaker's character, not yours. The second layer is principles, a clear set of values that guide your decisions regardless of external pressure. The inner keep is unshakable identity, understanding that you are not your circumstances, roles, possessions, thoughts, or feelings. You are the observer of them. This core self cannot be touched by external events. Building this fortress is daily work. Every time you choose your response, rather than reacting automatically, you strengthen the walls. The fortress also has windows that allow you to connect with others and serve the world, but on your terms. The stronger your fortress, the more generous you can be. Everyone will face storms in life. The question is whether you'll have built a fortress strong enough to weather them while maintaining your values, your peace, and your ability to serve others. 6. The courage to disappoint others. The sixth principle is perhaps the most difficult for most people to embrace: the willingness to disappoint others in order to remain true to yourself. This is not about being cruel. It's about understanding that trying to please everyone is not just impossible, it's a betrayal of your authentic self. Aristotle observed, "To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing." The Stoic Warrior rejects this path of invisibility. They understand that living authentically means some people will be disappointed in your choices or upset by your boundaries, but the alternative is a life of pretense that satisfies no one. Most people confuse being liked with being respected. The paradox is that people respect you more when you have clear boundaries than when you have none at all. The Stoic Warrior understands that disappointment is often a sign that you're making the right choice. When you set healthy boundaries instead of being endlessly available, those who take advantage of your compliance will be disappointed. This principle requires what I call strategic disappointment, the conscious choice to let some people down in order to show up authentically for the people and purposes that truly matter. For example, the child who chooses to disappoint a parent by following their own path rather than living someone else's dream understands that living inauthentically disappoints everyone in the long run. The courage to disappoint others applies to smaller daily interactions, such as saying no to social invitations when you need solitude, or refusing to participate in gossip. The Stoic Warrior communicates their boundaries clearly and kindly. They pick the hills worth dying on, the situations where compromising their values would damage their integrity or derail their purpose. People who truly love you want you to be authentic, even if your authenticity sometimes disappoints them. They'd rather know the real you than love a false version created to please them. The Stoic Warrior knows that a life spent trying to avoid all disappointment is a life that disappoints the most important person of all, yourself. 7. Victory through self-mastery. The seventh and final principle of the Stoic Warrior is understanding that the only victory that truly matters is the victory over yourself. While the world obsesses over defeating others or achieving external recognition, the Stoic Warrior knows that the ultimate conquest is mastering your own mind, emotions, and impulses. This is the victory that no one can take from you because it exists entirely within your control. Lao, the ancient Chinese philosopher, captured this truth perfectly. He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty. The Stoic Warrior embodies this mightiness through the quiet power of self-discipline, emotional regulation, and conscious choice. Self-mastery is about becoming the conscious director of your inner experience rather than its helpless victim. It's the difference between being driven by your emotions and using your emotions as information. Every day presents countless opportunities for this inner victory. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do you react with rage, or do you choose your response? Each time you choose your response, rather than reacting automatically, you strengthen what the Stoics called the ruling faculty, your capacity for conscious choice. External victories are often hollow if they come at the cost of inner defeat. The person who achieves great success while being controlled by anger, fear, or ego hasn't truly won anything. But the person who maintains their peace, acts with integrity, and chooses their responses consciously has achieved something no external force can diminish. Self-mastery also means mastering your relationship with desire itself, distinguishing between preferences and attachments, between healthy ambition and desperate need. The Stoic Warrior can want things without being controlled by that wanting. This final principle culminates all the others. Sacred solitude gives you space to know yourself. Independence from others' opinions frees you to act authentically. A learning from failure builds wisdom. The courage to disappoint others maintains your integrity. When you achieve this mastery, you walk alone, not because you're antisocial, but because you're self-sufficient. You rise alone, not because you're selfish, but because you're strong enough to lift others. You win alone, not because you don't care about others, but because your victory is internal and therefore unassailable. The path of the Stoic Warrior isn't easy, but it's the only path that leads to genuine freedom. In a world that teaches dependence, you've learned independence. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Winning alone means your victory is so deeply rooted in character that no external force can take it away. The world needs more people who can stand in their truth without needing others' permission, who can love without attachment and serve without expectation. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I walk the path of the Stoic Warrior, alone, strong, and free.